In this video, we're diving into why so many people are leaving Chattanooga, Tennessee. Over the past 5 years, Chattanooga has experienced an explosion in growth. There have been tons of people moving to the area, but this has also affected people that have been living here for a while. And so in this video, we're going to dive into the reasons that people are leaving Chattanooga. If you're thinking about making the move to Chattanooga, or if you already live here, then make sure to stick with us because these reasons that we're covering in this video could impact you, or they might already be impacting you. Okay, let's jump into the video. So the first reason that so many people are leaving Chattanooga is the affordability crisis. Now, Chattanooga as a whole is still quite affordable when you compare it with the rest of the US, but especially over the last 5 years, we've experienced wages lagging behind expenses. In Chattanooga, the average hourly wage is $27 an hour. In the US, the national average hourly wage is about $32 an hour. So Chattanooga falls a little bit below the national average when it comes to wages. Now, the living wage in the Chattanooga area as of 2025 is about $50,600 a year. So if you're a single adult, that's about what you need to make to have a comfortable life in Chattanooga. Now, this is going to vary a bit from person to person, but that is just an average in the Chattanooga area, which means you need to make approximately $25 an hour. Now, the state minimum wage in Tennessee is $7.25. You don't really see many jobs being offered for that anymore. In fact, if there are jobs being offered for that, they're probably targeting much younger people that are just getting into the workforce. But you're seeing a lot of jobs in the Chattanooga area that are still offering salaries between $15 and $19 an hour, especially in manufacturing and perhaps jobs that don't require skilled labor. So if you're stuck at those lower wages, it's going to be very difficult to have a good lifestyle and to have a good living in the Chattanooga area. Another thing that's really affecting the affordability in Chattanooga is that housing prices have dramatically risen over the past 5 years, and really a lot over the past 10 to 12 years. So far in 2025, the median home sale price has been right around $350,000 across Chattanooga as a whole. Now, depending on what source you look at, this number might be a little bit different, but that's right around where the averages are. In 2012, the average home sale price in the Chattanooga area was $137,000. So we've seen a dramatic increase in the area, but wages have not quite kept pace with the increase in the cost of housing. Across Chattanooga as a whole, average rents have risen to between $1,500 and $1,700 a month. This is for a smaller apartment. If you want something larger, if you want a single family home, this could be much more expensive than that. Another problem that is pushing people out of Chattanooga is that there are so many remote workers that want to live in the Chattanooga area because it is beautiful, because it's relatively inexpensive compared to the rest of the US. And so people with remote jobs that are earning quite high salaries are moving into the area and paying higher prices for homes, therefore raising the entire market as a whole and pricing out some of those people that perhaps have lower incomes in the Chattanooga area. Another thing that is pushing people out of the Chattanooga area is that there is a somewhat constrained job market. And so the economy is quite strong in the Chattanooga area, but it is limited to a few sectors. Our really strong sectors in the Chattanooga area would be manufacturing, healthcare, logistics, and there's a pretty strong insurance sector here as well. But if you're in a more specialized career path, like say you're an architect or an animator or in film production, then you could have a harder time breaking into the job market in the Chattanooga area because there just isn't a big enough job market to support a ton of people in those industries. So what you're starting to see in Chattanooga is that there really is this divide. There is a group of very well compensated people that make a lot of money living here in Chattanooga that work in those sectors and perhaps are in management in those sectors. And then there is a group of people that are in the manufacturing roles making between $15 and $19 an hour. And it's very hard for them to keep up and build wealth and not live paycheck to paycheck in the Chattanooga area. Let's move to the next category of reasons that is pushing people out of Chattanooga, and that is the strain on livability. So what do I mean by this? If you do not own a car and if you live anywhere outside of the Chattanooga city limits, it's going to be very difficult to get into town. You basically need a car in the Chattanooga area. It's very hard to rely on public transit. Chattanooga does have a public transit system, the CARTA bus system. This was actually ranked an 18 out of 100 in terms of how usable the bus system is. So that is a failing grade. It's not a very good option if you're trying to commute to and from work. It's kind of more of a last resort option for a lot of people. Now, if you live in the downtown area itself, you could probably get away with relying on the CARTA bus system. But if you live outside of downtown, you're going to have a very difficult time relying on public transit. So it is a necessity to have a car in the Chattanooga area if you want to be able to get around, unless you live in a very specific small portion of downtown. Another thing that really impacts the mobility in the Chattanooga area is that there are all these geographical bottlenecks. And so Chattanooga has the river running through the city, and then there are a few ridges and mountains. And so these ridges and mountains really constrain where the roads can go. And that means that there are only a few major roads that bring you in and out of Chattanooga. And currently, most of these roads are undergoing some level of construction or modification or renovation. For example, on the I-75 and I-24 interchange, there has been construction for a really long time. I mean, I think as long as I can remember, there's been some sort of construction there to widen the roads and make traffic problems go away. But with that improvement in the infrastructure, there does come growing pains. And so you will frequently experience traffic going to and from downtown Chattanooga if you are traveling on any of these roads. Another thing that causes a major strain on livability is there are a few environmental factors that are impacting the area. For example, Chattanooga has been named an allergy capital of the US. There are a lot of pollen producing plants in the area, and during the spring and fall in particular, you'll get a lot of pollen that blows into the Chattanooga Valley and then swirls around and stays and has a hard time escaping the valley. And so you really have to wait until rain kind of washes a lot of that pollen away for the allergies to kind of die down. I don't want to knock on the weather too hard here in Chattanooga because we do have 4 seasons. The weather can be very beautiful in this area, but the summers can be extremely hot and humid. In the past few weeks, we've had a lot of humidity and a lot of heat. That can make it not very fun to get outside and experience some of the beautiful scenery that we do have in the Chattanooga area. And then the winters can be a little bit depressing. Now, I spent my college years out in Washington State, and our winters there were far, far, far more depressing than the winters are here in Chattanooga. Over there, we would get like fog and rain that would just settle, and you wouldn't see the sun for like a month in the winter in Washington, and that was pretty difficult. But here in the Chattanooga area, we will get a lot of gray skies, a lot of damp rain. And then the other thing is that we don't have a ton of evergreen trees here. Most of the trees are deciduous, so they lose their leaves during the fall, which is beautiful in the fall, but then in the winter, everything is just really brown and kind of dull looking, a little bit drab. And so that is one of the downsides about living here. It's one of the environmental pressures that does push some people out. Another environmental pressure is that we do get tornadoes here in Chattanooga. Now, they are not as prevalent as some other areas in the US, but they do happen, they do occur. And I have personally known people that have had their homes get hit twice. They lived in one area that got hit by a tornado, and then they moved to another area, and that area also got hit by a tornado. Now, fortunately, with tornadoes, it is usually a fairly limited path that really gets torn up, but for the people that are affected by that, it can be catastrophic. Hey, really quick, I am a licensed real estate agent in both Tennessee and Georgia, so if you're thinking about moving to the area and you need help finding the perfect home, feel free to reach out. You can call or text or scan the QR code here on screen to book a Zoom call with me. All right, back to the video. Let's move into the third category of reasons that are pushing people out of the Chattanooga area, and that is that there is a social disconnect. So when we were talking about wages, I kind of mentioned that there are 2 different groups of people in Chattanooga. There's a very well-compensated class of people here, and then there is a very undercompensated class of people here. And so you kind of have this bifurcated society where one group of people is experiencing a very luxurious and lavish life, doing amazing things, living on the lake, having boats, getting out, taking great vacations in and out of Chattanooga, and then the other side of society, which is living paycheck to paycheck, making between $15 and $19 an hour, working in manufacturing. And it's just tough. About 27% of Chattanooga is below the poverty line. It's quite a high number for a large urban area in the United States. There is really quite a bit of inequality in the Chattanooga area, and that is a problem. Another thing with the social disconnect is that a lot of people relocating to the area describe it as being friendly, but also somewhat cliquey. It can be hard to break into a social circle in the Chattanooga area. There are a number of locals in Chattanooga that don't want so many people moving into the Chattanooga area because they want to keep this area the way it was when they were growing up. Unfortunately for them, things are changing, and there are more and more people that are being attracted to this place and beginning to call this place home. But it can be a little bit hard to find your footing and to find a good social group in the Chattanooga area. It just takes a lot of intention and a lot of putting yourself out there to really find that group of people and that connection. Okay, and then a final thing that is pushing people out of the area is there's not much of a nightlife or night social scene in the Chattanooga area. I'd say as a whole, Chattanooga is geared more towards families who enjoy outdoor activities and outdoor lifestyle. It's not so geared towards young professionals who are seeking to be in a really social scene and to have access to bars and clubs and all those sorts of things. We do have great music and bands that come through town, but if you're wanting to see some of the bigger artists, you're probably going to have to drive to Nashville, north of us, or Atlanta, south of us. So to wrap things up, I think Chattanooga really is a city that is in transition. The economy here was dying in the late 1980s and early 1990s, and Chattanooga has really done a lot to revitalize itself and to make itself an attractive place for people to live and enjoy a great lifestyle, but it still has a ways to go. And in the process of kind of reinventing itself, unfortunately, Chattanooga has become a little bit inaccessible for some of the people that used to call this place home. Anyways, if you live in the Chattanooga area and you think I missed something, let me know in the comments what another reason is that is pushing people out of the Chattanooga area. If you made it this far in the video, YouTube thinks that you might like these videos here. I make a lot of content on what it's like to live in the Chattanooga, Tennessee area, so go ahead and check those out. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.